We're here with Congressman Tom Latham. Congressman, one of your goals coming into this legislative session is regulatory reform. What specifically do you propose in the way of regulatory reform in this country?
Well, I've introduced legislation that would first of all have the regulations coming out of an agency actually have them tell the private sector exactly how they came about with the determination. This regulation has cost-benefit analysis and the methods used to determine that. So the private sector would actually have a chance to use those same numbers to see if it is actually doing what it's supposed to do. We have an awful lot of extra regulations today that cost the private sector an awful lot of money, and it certainly we need to have that kind of oversight. We also have to have Congress actually have a say in the regulations, and that part of the bill says that when you have a new regulation proposed that costs $100 million or more for the economy, that Congress will actually have to vote up or down on it, and the President sign it into law. It's really a matter of just actually bringing the system back in, have oversight of the regulators, and to make sure that we're doing exactly what we should be doing.
Another focus of yours is forcing Congress to enact a federal budget. Under your proposal, what penalties would congressional representatives face if it failed to enact a budget?
Well, just to step back, the Senate now, this will be the third year that the Senate has not enacted a budget that it's required to do by law of the Budget Act of 1974. The year before last, when Speaker Pelosi was in charge, they didn't do a budget then in the House. Last year we did a budget, and it is, to me, outrageous that we have a $3.8 trillion spending, we got $15 trillion in debt, and no budget. And so what my bill would say, that Congress has to stay in Washington, do its job, pass a budget, or you don't get paid, the staff doesn't get paid, you don't get expenses. If there's one thing that will keep Congress's feet to the fire is if you cut off the funding, and that's what we have to do. We've got to get a handle on spending in Washington, and you can't do that without having a budget in place.
You also want to protect family farms from certain youth labor regulations. That's something that you've been talking about the last couple of months. What regulations specifically would you eliminate?
Well, the Department of Labor is proposing a regulation that says that our farm youth cannot work on a family farm. And it goes against any kind of tradition that we have in agriculture. I grew up on a family farm operation. That's where I learned responsibility. I learned skills. I learned how to work together with other people. And what the Department of Labor is saying, that if you're outside of a quote immediate family farm, if your grandfather's still involved or your uncle is in partnership with your parents or your aunts in partnership, you could not work on that farm. It is just totally, it represents, I think, the out-of-touch Washington oversight that we see coming out of the Department of Labor. They don't have any concept of what the real world is out here, what the traditions of agriculture are, and what a great opportunity for young people to learn how to work, the skills, and to be part of a farming operation.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
It's great to be with you.